Hello, hello, good evening, good day, everybody. Great to be back on the 86th live stream. And as you know, today is a live video chat session. So I'm going to be inviting you all to come and ask me questions on the broadcast. So let me share the link for joining. Let me share the link. Let me do it right away. Let's see, where is it? Oh, there you go. I think I have shared the link. And not sure if it's visible. One second. Just give me a second. Yes, I think I should be able to share it now. Here we are. That should do it. Let me pin the message so everyone can see it. Yes, there it is. It's visible now. So I am looking forward to you guys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, all of you joining. Here we go. Everyone's joining. Fantastic. Okay, I can see lots of people have joined already. That's good. That's good. So let us get going, and I will. There we go. Okay, so whom shall we bring in first? Let's bring in Mr. Sahil Kumar. Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing?
Sir, I have a doubt, sir. How to
Yes,
remember
yes.
physics formulas?
How to remember physics formula? So that's the question. Good question. You remember physics formulas and you remember physics, the laws of physics by doing a lot of practice. So you take an equation, which is a physics formula, and you solve a lot of problems using that formula. Like not 10, 20, maybe 100, 200. It takes time. If you do that amount of practice, then you will never be able to forget it. So it's all about practice, practice, practice. See, there are two ways of learning something. One way is you read, but then you will forget 90% of it. But if you take the concepts and apply them by solving problems, then you will never forget it. So that is the correct way to learn physics formulas and to learn the laws of physics. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Bye. Okay, I think I should ask everyone where they are from. Okay, let's do that. Hello.
Uh, Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Where are you from? What's your name?
I am Srinath, sir.
Where are you from?
I am from Maharashtra.
Maharashtra. All right, sir. What's your question?
Sir, my question was why did Brahmi decline as a script to write Indian languages in the medieval era?
Why did the Brahmi script, decline? See, the Brahmi script was prevalent. When was it prevalent? More than 2000 years ago. There were two scripts around that time, 2,500 years before today, Kharoshti and Brahmi. So Brahmi seems to have emerged out of the old Saraswati Sindhu script, the Indus Valley script, they call it, or Harappan script. And the thing is that, when you are talking about a time period of centuries or thousands of years, things change. Things change. So there is evolution. So Brahmi gave rise to other scripts, and it's always evolution. Languages change and evolve, and even scripts change and evolve. Culture also changes and evolve. Everything changes. So if you're talking about a time period of 2,500 years, you're going to see changes. So new versions of the script will come up, and then you had scripts like the Sharda script, and eventually you had the Devanagari script, you had the Maharashtri script, and various other Grantha script. Lots of scripts emerged out of older scripts. That's just the way the world works. If you're talking about just 5 years or 10 years, you will not see that happening. But if you look at a time period of 2,000, 2,500 years, you will see old things going obsolete and new things emerging in their place. So it's just a natural phenomenon. It's evolution. Evolution happens even in culture and society. So that's why Brahmi eventually went out of use and other scripts replaced it. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. All the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, whom shall we bring in now? Let's bring in Mr. Hardik. Hello.
Hello,
Good
Namaskar,
evening.
sir. So
Namaskar. Namaskar.
myself Hardik. I am from Haryana, and my question is, why Mahatma Gandhi has been compared with Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, and how similar are they?
Right. Why has Mr. Gandhi been compared with Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela? See, it's all about image building. It's about creating a certain image. It's all about marketing. So the way certain leaders are marketed, it creates a certain kind of image. So if you have been watching what I have been saying over the past few months, it's if you look at Mr. Gandhi and his life and his career and his writings objectively, you will see that he is a certain kind of historical figure, but the way he has been portrayed is very different from what he actually was like. So he has been portrayed as a saintly person, as the on the same level as the great mahatmas of the old times, like Mahatma Buddha, etc., which actually is not quite accurate. He was actually a politician, and a very, very good politician at that. He was able to outmaneuver people like Subhash Chandra Bose and get them ejected from the Congress party via political maneuvering and so on. So Mr. Gandhi actually was not the way he is portrayed. Now, the thing is this: in other countries, they have wholesale bought into the image that has been created of Mr. Gandhi, and therefore people like Mr. Martin Luther King, who were fighting for civil rights in the US, they looked upon Mr. Gandhi as an inspiration, as somebody who apparently uh, got rid of the British from India without resorting to violence. So that is the kind of image that was created, and that's why people like Mr. Martin Luther King, who was not a historian, that's why they saw Mr. Gandhi as an inspiration. I mean, Mr. Martin Luther King was fighting a big struggle for civil rights for the African American people. He did not have the time to go and look at history, study Mr. Gandhi's writings. He just saw him as a big inspirational figure, and so that's why there is this comparison that has been drawn. Even Mr. Mandela, eventually he became. I mean, see, Mr. Mandela was jailed by the South Africans, and the reason he was jailed for 27 or so years is because he was initially because he had resorted to violence in order to try and get rid of the apartheid regime. So Mr. Mandela eventually disavowed violence, and that's why he is also compared with Mr. Gandhi, especially after Mr. Mandela was released and he became this pacifistic figure. He emphasized forgiveness and reconciliation and all that, which is good. I have nothing against that. That was a very noble gesture on Mr. Mandela's part, and it ensured that South African society went on peacefully, more or less. So that's the reason why these three historical figures are kind of compared. But I think India needs to revisit Mr. Gandhi's legacy and look at his life and career from a more objective lens. That would be good for the
Thank you, sir.
national interest. All right. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Okay, whom shall we bring in? Mm, let us bring in Mr. Shane Kurian. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, sir. How are you? Where are you from?
I'm from Kerala,
All right.
and uh, um, I want to ask you a question. The question is that about faster than light travel.
Mhm.
Okay. What other what types do you think is the uh, appropriate faster than light travel to the stars? And do you think quantum teleportation is an effective means of effective faster than light travel technology? Do you think quantum teleportation is a better technology if human beings manage to achieve it?
Right. So the concept of faster than light travel is not allowed according to the laws of physics. The speed limit, the universal speed limit, is the speed of light. Nothing can ever go past that. Nothing, I mean, no massive object can even reach the speed of light, because there is something called so as your speed, as your velocity increases, as it reaches relativistic speeds closer to the speed of light, your mass also increases. And if a massive object, even if it is an electron, even if even if it's a proton, if it were to reach the speed of light, its mass would become infinite. And therefore, according to the laws of physics, according to special relativity, the equations are pretty straightforward and the derivations are pretty straightforward. According to this, it's simply not possible to travel at the speed of light.
What
Of course, people.
what about
Yes.
being what about being quantum teleported to other exoplanets?
Yeah, quantum teleportation is a theory, and it's not quite about transporting a person A from point A to point B. It's the name is actually quite misleading, so it won't work. And quantum mechanics, actually, it only applies to ultra microscopic subatomic particles. It cannot apply. I am not a quantum object. You are not a quantum object. We are macroscopic object, and our bodies and our world, it obeys the laws of classical physics, not quantum physics. So quantum technologies, when we talk about them, they are still quite a bit in the realm of science fiction. We of course do use quantum mechanics in various technologies like telecommunications, semiconductors, and all that. But teleportation is still in the realm of science fiction. The only and what I can also offer is also within science fiction. It's about going through a wormhole, which I mean, we have never actually seen a wormhole, but it's allowed. I mean, wormhole solutions do exist in Einstein's equations of general relativity, so that may be a possibility. And there's also the warp drive thing that's going on. So it's all still very much theoretical. If it ever happens, it will happen 100, 200 years down the line, perhaps, possibly. But as of today, it's all within the realm of science fiction and imagination. It's not possible as of today. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I have to give you a realistic answer. So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Nice meeting you, sir. All the best.
Okay.
Okay. Let's bring in Mr. Udit. Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. How are you doing, sir?
I am very well. How are you doing? Where are you from?
So, I'm from Saudi Arabia, sir. I was there the last session too, sir.
Oh, you were the last time. Okay.
Yes, sir. So my question here is from the current affairs, sir. Right now, we got the news about the ABG shipping company, right? About the fraud and everything. So we keep on hearing like major frauds happening in our country from the banking system and all, and like people like Harshad Mehta use the loopholes and everything, and many people like Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi, sir. So do you think or do you know anything about these loopholes or what were they and what caused such frauds to happen, sir?
Uh, I am not aware of the actual details and all that of these things, but what I can tell you is that in the Indian system has unfortunately for the past 7+ decades relied on corruption, on underhand deals. I'm not saying
Yes, sir.
all of it is corrupt, but there is, obviously we know it. It's all been reported. It's
Yes,
not
sir.
like some big revelation. There's been a lot of corruption, and that's just the way the system was run for decades. And that's why you had these things happening. It's called crony capitalism. The ruling party, the ruling regime will go hand in hand with various business people, and they will have various deals. I am not pointing figures at any specific individual or anything like that. I'm just saying typically that's how these things happen. I'm not saying it was everywhere, but yeah, it was there. Like you give the example of Harshad Mehta. So
Yes, sir.
obviously he could not have done all that without other people knowing about it,
Yes, sir.
and other people also benefiting from it. So those who are in power typically benefit from such things, typically, not always. So I'm not sure about the details,
Yes, sir.
but that's how it is. So what needs to happen in India is we need proper regulation. We need to clean up the system, and I think that is happening right now. The
Yes,
more
sir.
the system is formalized, the more the economy is formalized and regulated, the less less corruption you're going to have. So that is the direction we are going in, actually. About 5 years ago, more than 50% of the economy was informal. So it was
Yes, sir.
completely untaxed, and it was essentially corruption. You could call it corruption in most cases, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
But today, I think around 10% of the economy only is today informal. The rest of it is all formalized and so on. So we are
Yes, sir.
going in the right direction, but still there's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen. No doubt about that. But
Yes, sir.
the thing is, I am optimistic because I'm seeing the right moves being made, and we are progressing in the correct
Yes,
direction.
sir.
So That's what I can say.
So within this question only, I'm not adding another question. I'm sticking to the one question only, sir.
Very
So, but when
intelligent,
we
sir.
talk about the loopholes, sir,
Yes.
like how do we get to know about the loopholes, sir? Like which they
We
use,
don't get
like
to know about it. The loopholes are not supposed to be known. We are not supposed to know about them. I don't know any specific loopholes. I can just see there are loopholes because these things happen.
yes, sir.
Okay. It's only
Uh,
insiders who will know and be able to pinpoint the loopholes.
yes,
I
sir.
am not an economist. I am not into banking. So, and I am a scientist. So, I
Yes, sir.
really cannot give you specific
So I
details.
just
But
wanted an
you can
overview. I
see.
didn't want the main
Yeah,
details,
yeah,
sir.
I get it.
Thank you, sir.
All
That's
right.
it, sir. See you soon, sir.
No,
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. All right. Let us. Oh my goodness. We have our good old friend Bhanu. Hello, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. We meet again. So you're from Jammu,
Sir,
right?
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. What's your question?
Sir, recently Mr. Putin said that if NATO country will interfere in the matter of Ukraine, they might use nuclear weapons. Sir, what will be the impact of this on the world as well as India? And sir, how much chances of World War III is there?
Okay, let's talk about nuclear weapons. Yes, Mr. Putin did allude to nuclear weapons. He said that Russia has a nuclear weapons power, so don't mess with us. That's what he said. In my opinion, the probability of the use of nuclear weapons is zero. Nobody is going to use nuclear weapons. It's not something you use, it's something you keep with yourself as a deterrent. It's only something you use as the absolute last option. So nuclear weapons are not something that are to be used. It's only something you keep for deterrence. So I don't think there's any possibility of nuclear weapons being used in any conflict that arises unless certain thresholds are crossed, and I don't think anybody is crazy enough to cross through those thresholds. So what Mr. Putin said is called a nuclear saber rattling. Just talk about nuclear weapons and so on, just to keep other people in place and remind them that I am strong enough and I can defend myself. So that's what's happening. Now, what's happening in Ukraine? The American media, the Western media is right now saying that there's going to be a war. Next week, there's going to be war. That sort of thing. There's going to be invasion. There's going to be a Russian invasion of Ukraine in the next 4 to 5 days, in the next week at most. That's what they are claiming, as if they are able to read the mind of Mr. Putin and they are aware of everything that he is planning. I mean, who are they to say that? On what basis are they making the claim? Anyway, we will see how things escalate, how things play out to be, but I do not see any possibility of nuclear war whatsoever. If there is an invasion of Ukraine, it will be very well calculated and calibrated. Mr. Putin also doesn't want to be faced with a big proper NATO big war with NATO on his western front. So it's all about calculations. It's all about what is your national interest or on your objectives. The thing is that Russia feels that it is being encircled by NATO, and it is not a misplaced feeling, because if you look at the maps, they are being encircled by NATO, and NATO is trying to now uh, move into Ukraine. Essentially, they want Ukraine to become part of their orbit, and that is obviously a red line that Mr. Putin will not allow them to cross. So that is, in short, what the conflict is. But when we talk about nuclear weapons, there is no probability of them being used. All right, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. All right.
Yes, sir.
Let us bring in. Whom shall I bring in? Let us bring in Mr. Rishabh Singh. Hello.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
You're audible. Where are you from?
sir, I'm from Noida, UP.
Okay.
So I think we have met in a last, I think, in the last meet,
Okay. Okay.
last
Great.
to last. So my
All right.
question is, sir, it's on the burqa. Recently, we have a burqa controversy ongoing in India. So can you shed some light on the origin of the burqa? That how did it originated and why most of the Muslim women are so obsessed with wearing the burqa? And so the next part of the question is, I've read somewhere that in Indonesia, earlier in back in 40s and 50s, women didn't used to wear the burqa, but then after due to the Arabic influence, because Arab exports some oil in these countries, the usage of burqa increase. So what's your views on it?
I must apologize to you because I am not an expert in these matters. It is something that I have never really studied, or the history of the this garment, or even of this culture. It is not something that I am anyway an expert in. So if I were to make some statements, it could be wrong, and I don't want that to happen. So therefore, I am not the right person to ask these questions. All right, there are many other experts, and there are many other channels that discuss this in great detail. So maybe you could look there, but I can offer you one more question. Instead of this, please ask me something else, and I'll answer that.
Okay, okay, sir. Sir, I was thinking, I've read somewhere that most of the Muslim dynasties, even in India, they were very obsessed with the Persian culture. Even when Mughals came to India, why they didn't adopted Indian culture? Because even Indian culture was also ancient, like Persian, and they even didn't adopted the Roman and Greek culture. Why were they so obsessed with the Persian culture? What was so special about it?
I think what happened is that, see, when you talk about the so-called Mughals, who are actually Timurids, they are actually the Turks. When they came to India, see, so it all starts with this fellow called, what's his name, Babar, Zahiruddin Babar. He was a kind of a loser, so he lost, and then there was his son Humayun. He also lost to Sher Shah Suri. He had to go into exile in Persia. So Humayun, I believe, went into exile, escaped with just ran for his life, went to Persia, took asylum there. He had to be he was forced to convert to Shia Islam, and then eventually he came back to India after Sher Shah Suri died, and yes, something like that. I think, was it Humayun? Was it Akbar? I think it was Humayun who came back to India, and he
So it
came
was
with a whole retinue. Yes.
Humayun only, Humayun.
It was Humayun, yes. So he came to India from Persia with a whole retinue of Persian officials. Uh, and when he was able to regain the throne, he installed all these Persian officials, etc., as his bureaucrats and administrators. So that's why Persian became the court language of the Turkic kingdom, the so-called Mughal Empire, because they had all these Persian officials who did all the accounting, all the administration, and all that, and it just carried on from that time onwards, from Humayun to Akbar to whatever their descendants were. So that's how Persian became the court language, and that's why there was so much influence of Persian culture and language among these dynasties, these foreign dynasties. Right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Nice to
Most
meet you,
welcome.
sir.
Nice to meet you. Okay, let's bring in somebody else. Let's bring in Mr. Sahas. Hello,
Hello, sir. Are you able to hear me?
I am able to hear you. Where are you from, sir?
Sir, I'm from Uttar Pradesh.
Hmm. What's your
Sir,
question?
sir, more than a question, I want your perspective on it. Sir, through social media, it's even more visible that there are people in this country who have this innate devilish hatred towards this country and towards the Hindu community. And these people are present across communities, even the Hindu community. So, my question is, how is the state of Bharat, which is highly developed and highly civilized, but it's also culturally connected to its roots? How is that state possible when you have n number of institutional powers working to break or destroy that very basic idea of India?
Right. So this is the question I have addressed multiple times, but of course it's a good question. So let's take it again. So what social media is doing? So many people say that social media is polarizing the country, right? Lots of people say it's causing polarization, it's causing the outpouring of hatred and all that. That's one perspective. The other perspective is that social media is simply showing the attitudes that already exist in the country. It's simply showing that, right? And now when you talk about the what is called the breaking India forces, all the various NGOs and various other organizations, etc., that are essentially working against India's national interest, well, that is because of foreign influence in India. There's a lot of foreign funding that is pouring into India from various from a variety of foreign external sources. There are so many NGOs that work in India officially, and they also work as conduits for foreign interference in India. So that is the situation exists today. This situation exists because India is currently not powerful enough to stand up to certain very powerful foreign forces. India is not a superpower. India is merely a middle power at best. India is merely a regional power at best. India's economy is about $3 trillion of GDP, right? It's not even $10 trillion dollars. It's nowhere comparable to the real big powers in the world. And that's why they are able, as of today, to arm twist India, and they are completely capable of destroying India if they want. So the government, whether we like it or not, has to strike a certain balance. So what needs to happen right now is India needs to bide its time and work as hard as possible over the next 10, 20 years to grow its economy at least 10% a year anyhow, until it is at least $10 trillion in value. Once that happens, India will be an entirely different beast. If you look at China, when it was a $3 trillion economy, it was a very modest country. They did not have this wolf warrior diplomacy, all this aggressive nature, nothing. They used to keep quiet. They used to swallow on all the insults the West were throwing at them, and they just worked quietly. So that's what India needs to do. Once India becomes a more powerful country, all of this will be taken care of. So, what needs to happen, what we need to do is reach that state as fast as possible. That's what needs to happen. So, that's what I can offer you.
Sir, is this one of the reason why you say that Hinduism can be eradicated in the next 50 years?
Yeah, if India doesn't take care of the economy and all that, see, that's why economy is very important. As your economy grows, military also grows, then you can deal with things. If that doesn't happen, yeah, Indian culture will disappear in the next 50 to 100 years. Certainly, Hinduism, like you say. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So it's all in our hands. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Nice
Yes.
meeting you.
Yes, sir. Thank
All right. All right. Let's bring in Mr. K. Bhatt. Hello.
Hello, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Can you hear me?
Namaskar. I can hear you, sir. Where are you from?
Yeah. I'm from Mumbai, and my question it's kind of dark in its subject matter. But anyway, we need to have these discussions. And I wish to ask you about Jogendranath Mandal, the first, I think he was the law minister of Pakistan. He was the first law minister. And the consequences that, or the circumstances that led to his departure from Pakistan, from his post. And then he fled to India, to Bengal, and he died over there. So the horrific atrocities that he saw in Pakistan on the minority community over there, which led to his departure from Pakistan. Also, if if you could throw some light on the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War and the exclusively on the atrocities on women, because this is something that we need to talk about, we need to discuss. It's a very grisly and horrifying chapter of South Asian history. So could you talk about that? 1971 Bangladesh War, the atrocities on
Okay,
women.
when you talk about so when you speak about Jogendranath Mandal, was he from East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh? I'm
He
not quite
was
familiar with his story, Was he from there?
he was a Dalit leader who sort of fled. He went to West Pakistan, the modern day Pakistan, and he was so filled with hate for the Hindu community, so he decided to just leave India, go to Pakistan,
Okay, I
and
get
he
it, right.
saw some
Yeah,
atrocities,
obviously,
horrible.
if you are in Pakistan, you will see all kinds of atrocities. We know that when Pakistan was formed, the Hindu population, I mean, non-Muslim population was around 30%. I'm not sure what the exact percentage was,
Yes,
but today it's less than 2%. So obviously something happened, right? So that's just the history. Now, I am not once again an expert in the horrific atrocities that happened in the 1971 war. I have seen some pictures, etc. When I was a kid. I have not studied that because it is something that it's not fun to study, it's not fun to read, so I have not read it. I would not be able to give you the details of what exactly happened. I know that millions of people were massacred. The official figures are like 1.5 million. Obviously that's an underrepresentation of what really must have happened, and obviously it is the Hindus that would have been targeted. And I'm aware of the kind of I mean I've heard about the kind of atrocities that were perpetrated, especially on women, but I don't have exact statistics. I have not read the details. But of course, it all happened. It's kind of being whitewashed now. So that's just the way the narratives are built. Even in Bangladesh, they've kind of forgotten. And if you see the attitudes today among the Bangladeshi people, they are like very much pro Pakistan more than pro India. So it's all about what kind of history they are taught and what kind of political environment there is and what the media tells you. That's what you swallow wholesale, and that's how attitudes are formed. So surprisingly, today in Bangladesh, you will see a very strong anti-India attitude among most people. It's like they have forgotten what happened in 71 and how India saved them from what the Pakistanis were doing. That's just the way it is. So that's what I can tell you, sir.
Well, it is quite disheartening to see the attitudes of Bangladeshi youth
Yes.
towards India right now.
Yes. Yeah,
You know,
true.
but I would appreciate it greatly if you threw some light or you made a video on the Bangladesh Liberation War, because it is something that is not talked about at all, because it's so it kind of uh, completely it's brushed on the carpet and it's
I get it. Yeah.
harrowing. So
Yeah,
please
I
talk
agree.
about
Agree.
it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. I will take it into consideration. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Bye. Okay, let us bring in Mr. Shrish. Hello.
Hello, sir. I'm a big fan of yours, sir. Sir, you are a great mentor
Nice
to
meeting
me.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Where are you
Yes,
from?
sir. Sir, I'm from Delhi.
Hmm.
Yes, sir.
So,
So,
what's your
sir, my
question?
question. Yes, sir. Sir,
Hmm.
my question was that, sir, in one of your videos, or it was a session, I don't remember. Sir, you said that
Hmm.
currently in India, India does not have any influence in any other countries. And sir, you
Hmm.
gave the examples like in Thailand, India has zero influence there. So, sir, but there are many organizations like ISKCON which are spreading Indian culture worldwide. So, sir, what is
Hmm.
your take on this?
So, what I was talking about is hard power. There are two kinds of power. The real power is hard power. Now, India is obsessed with soft power, culture, and all that. But if you see, India is not even doing anything to spread its soft power, its culture. Of course, organizations like ISKCON exist, and they are present mostly in the West, I believe, in the Western world, in Europe, in North America, maybe some other countries also. I'm not aware. So
Okay.
I was talking about soft power I was talking about hard power. I mean, now when it comes to cultural influence, that is a component of soft power. You will find a lot of remnants of Indian culture in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, in Burma, in Vietnam, in Laos, etc., in Indonesia, and all the way up to Japan. You will still see that. But today, India is no longer looked upon as a country that the kind of respect the people had in the past for India has kind of evaporated because of what's happened in the past 1,000 years, especially what's happened after independence. India did not bring itself out of poverty quickly. India, under the Nehruvian regime, kind of enjoyed remaining in poverty and so on. So when it comes to soft power, you're talking about soft power. We can do so much more. We can do so much more. uh, our film industry can become a veritable force from the soft
Yes,
power
sir.
perspective. But what we find is that Bollywood doesn't even represent Indian culture. It represents god knows what culture.
Yes, sir.
What
Yes,
you
sir.
see in Bollywood, whether it's the films, the songs, or the dances, that is not Indian culture. It is something absurd and
Yes,
something.
sir.
Yeah. So Bollywood, unfortunately, what it should be doing, it's not doing. And India doesn't have an independent music industry of its own, and so on. So India can do so much more from the perspective of soft power. Look at Japan. They have
Yes,
this
sir. Yes, sir.
anime industry. Japanese anime is a huge cultural force globally.
Yes, sir.
I mean, kids, youngsters, teenagers, they worship all the Japanese anime, and they watch it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Similarly for the yeah, and similarly for other things like South Korea, the BTS or whatever boy bands, etc. They have girl bands also. So this is what soft power is, and India is not currently, as of today, not doing much. Once India rises economically, it's going to happen. But I was talking about hard power. That is the real power. Your soft power is
Okay, sir.
useless unless you have hard power to back it up.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Bye,
Nice
sir. Have a
meeting you.
good day.
Thank you for the question. You
Bye,
too.
sir. Bye,
Bye.
sir.
Bye. Okay, let's bring in somebody else. Let's bring in Mr. Kushal. Hello.
Yeah, so my question is,
Where are you from,
hello,
sir?
sir.
Where are you from? Hello.
Hyderabad, Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. All right. All right. All right. Nice meeting you.
Yeah. So nice to meet you too.
Yes.
Uh, in 7th century, there was this thing called impalement of Jains in Madurai. I don't know if it's true or not, but uh, they call it a genocide of 8,000 Jain monks there.
Okay.
Is it true, sir? Like a lot of people deny it.
I
A
have I
lot of
haven't
people.
I haven't come across this. I haven't studied this. I haven't read this. If it I don't know where these narratives come from, and if some 8,000 people are killed, is it a genocide? In Chittorgarh, Akbar killed 30,000 men, women, and children. It's not called a genocide. It's simply brushed under the carpet. But if 8,000 people, I'm not even sure if that happened. But how come there is a genocide? How come they? I'm not pointing fingers at you. The historians or whoever it is that has portrayed this event, which I am not sure even if it even happened. But if it happened, how can you call that a genocide? It's a massacre. And if you look at global history, world history, you will see such events happening all the time. But if it happens in India, it's somehow a blot on the culture of India. So that's the kind of portrayal that happens in by these Indian court historians, Darbari historians, Marxist historians, and so on. So, to answer your specific question, I am not sure. I have not come across this incident. I've heard people allude to it, and he's gone. Okay. So, I hope that answers that question. Right. Let's bring in somebody else. Whom shall I bring in? Whom shall I bring in? Let us bring in Mr. Vibin. Hello. Can't hear
Hi,
you.
sir. Hi, sir.
Hi. Hi. Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Chennai.
Chennai. All right, sir. What's your question?
Your opinion on Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda.
Swami Vivekananda. All right. See, once again, I'm getting all these tough questions today. See, I haven't studied Mr. Swami Vivekananda ji. I haven't studied his works. I haven't read his whatever he's written. So I still don't know much about him, unfortunately. Obviously, he's revered in India. There must be a reason why he is revered. But I personally have never studied his works. I have not read his writings. I have not heard his speeches. I only know that people worship him. So that's all I can offer you, unfortunately. I am not an authority on the works and the life and the career of Swami Vivekananda ji. So unfortunately, I don't have much of an opinion because I am not well informed enough.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, thanks and nice
Thanks.
meeting you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Okay, whom shall we bring in? Let's bring in Mr. Runesh. Hello.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Have I met you before?
Yes, yes. I have been in one of the other shows. Yeah.
Okay, okay. But can you remind me where you're from?
I'm from Delhi, but currently I'm in Canada.
Canada. All right, sir. All right. Okay. Nice meeting you again. And what's your question?
Okay, sir. So this question kind of popped up with one of my discussion with my friend. So it just at a random day. So I was just telling him that how great our culture was, how much knowledge we possess and all. But then he gave me a very pointing reply that if we were so great, if we had so much vast knowledge all over the students from all over the world. So we used to be US of that time, right? So they were coming us to acquire knowledge. So he just told me a very simple reply that then why we did not utilize that knowledge. So as the Great Britain did or the entire Europe did, so out of industrial revolution, so so were we just simply sitting on that knowledge or not implementing it? Because we heard that we had so much medical enhancements, surgeries were happening, and astronomy, there must be so much. So what really happened that? And I also kind of observed this is are some of our Indian tendencies. So we have power, both soft power and physical, and the hard power, as we were just saying, but we do not exert it. So why is this some sort of a thing in Indian mentality or something? So even if you see it in the current time, so for example, the Indian diaspora, so in the US, so they are the top CEOs and all. But if you
Yes.
see in the Hollywood movies or anything, so we have so much misrepresentation. No one takes us that of a serious power as compared to China or Japan. And even coming about the hard power, so even in the times that we did not attack even the aggressor like Pakistan, they have attacked us first. But even when we just stopped at that line, that what do you call the Kashmir LAC, but we could very well take what was really ours. But even
I get
despite
it. I get it.
being
There are
more,
lots of examples. Yep.
yeah.
So let
So
me, yeah, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. So you said that India was the US of the old days, right? That's what you said.
yes, yes.
I disagree. I disagree. The US, whether you realize it or not, whether we realize it or not, the US is an imperial power. It's an empire. It's a global empire. We may not call it an empire today, but it is a global empire. Look at the
I agree
map.
to that. I
Take
agree.
the world map and see where their military bases are. Their military bases are spread all across the world. They have the ability to intervene militarily anywhere in the world at 30 minutes notice. They control the global systems. Their currency is the world's reserve currency. They are an imperial hegemonic power. It's the classical example of an imperial hegemonic power. That's what the US is. India was never that. It was never part of Indian culture. So even when we had a grand unified empire like the Mauryan Empire or the Kushan Empire or various other empires later on like the Maratha Empire, we were never hegemonic, and we never had this exclusivist supremacist culture. And of course, India's economy was over one third of the entire world's GDP,
Yeah.
because we were completely, totally industrialized. We were the world's first industrialized civilization, but we did not use it to go and invade the other countries. The thoughts apparently never occurred to us, right? So what we had is we had very high standards of living. We had a very good. We had all these industries. We had healthcare. We had all that, public works, and all that. But we were never, it's about the culture and the attitude. We never wanted to steal from others. We never wanted to destroy other countries and transfer all the wealth from there into India. So that is the attitude India never had. These other countries which we talk about, the last 500 years, the age of colonization, the European countries only wanted one thing: destroy others and transfer the wealth there. That attitude never was there in India or in any dharmic country. Look at the Mongols, look at the samurais, look at all the other Asian empires, kingdoms. When even when they were great, they never pillaged other countries. They never invaded other countries with the objective of taking all the wealth. Right. When you look at the history of Japan, it's only in the late 19th century that the attitude changes, and they try to eradicate Dharma and Buddhism, and the Meiji Restoration happens, and then you see the horrific atrocities the Japanese perpetrated in China and elsewhere because they abandoned those principles. So India has never been a hegemonic power. It has been very powerful at times. It has always been an enormously powerful economy, but it has never been a hegemonic, threatening nation. And that's why we never did that. We could have invaded Persia if we wanted. We could have invaded Central Asia if we wanted. We could have, even the Cholas even did that. They invaded and they invaded and conquered much of Southeast Asia all the way to the Philippines. But they never transferred the wealth from there into India. They actually enriched those places. So it's all about the culture, the civilizational ethos and values, which is different when it comes to India. But now, obviously, we have to be educated that this is the way the world works. The world is very different, and we have to ensure it never happens again. Never again, like the Jews say.
But do you see this happening? Because I still see
Slowly, it's
that
happening.
that
It's
thing is
happening
pretty
slowly.
much
We are seeing a change in the mindset of India. We have nuclear weapons now. Yeah, we have that uh, insurance. And obviously, we are right now. What India is doing is we are following the maxim of Deng Xiaoping, means stay quiet, keep your head down, bide your time, and work very hard, and wait until the time is right, until your economy and military is powerful enough. So that's what I see happening. It's going to take another 10, 20 years, hopefully, but we will rise again.
And
All
I
right,
should
sir.
add that you are also doing a very good job, because I'm seeing a very young viewer. So like you are
Yes,
really giving them a lot of perspective and good knowledge. And one humble suggestion, if I can make, Abhijit sir,
please
so
tell me.
that
Mhm.
would be sometime I follow a channel a lot. So we see those small snippets of information for that why India had never invaded foreign countries and all. But but to draw a more conclusive knowledge, it would be good that if you just in some of those sessions you pick a particular topic and expand on it and all that what that was misinformation. So it could be India's freedom movement or the role of India in World War II, an entire topic rather than fragmented knowledge, because it will really build up on having an that what we know, what was hidden from us. So that will be really great. So if you can do that in the future.
Thank you for the suggestion, and nice meeting you again.
Okay, thank you.
All
See
right.
you again, sir. Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
See you. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Let us bring in somebody else. Let us bring in Mr. Let's bring in Mr. Sia Bihari Saran. Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Hi. I can hear you, sir. Where are you from?
I'm from Tokyo, sir. I'm basically
Tokyo.
from Delhi, yes, but I'm in Tokyo.
Right.
I've
Great.
been
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you too. So my quick one question is about the swastika symbol.
Mhm.
Because recently I saw a documentary where it basically just uh, opened it up that swastika was not swastika, it was a hooked cross, but the name
Yeah.
swastika was given to it because of demeaning the Vedic culture. What is your take on that?
I totally agree with this assessment. The See, in Europe, for instance, first of all, let's talk about the swastika. What it is? It's a very ancient auspicious symbol. You find it in India in the Saraswati Sindhu Valley
Mm,
region, the Sapta Sindhu region, Harappan era, etc. You can find so lots of examples of swastikas that you find in the archaeological record, hundreds of them, and these are like around 5,000 or so years old.
yeah.
And if we look deeper, we may find even older swastikas in India. So in India, the archaeological record shows that it's at least 5,000 years ago. It was used as an auspicious symbol. In other parts of the world, also you find it. I believe the oldest swastika-like symbol was found in Central Europe, present-day Ukraine. It's an ivory carving of a bird which has swastika-like carvings on it, and it's found all across the world. It's found in Africa, it's found in the Native American cultures. It's a universal symbol of positivity and auspiciousness. That's what the swastika is. So it's not
Mm,
something that is only restricted to India, but of course in the 20th and 21st century the use went out. I mean, most of the world more or less stopped using it, and it's only in the dharmic culture that you find it. So you're in
mm,
Tokyo. If you look at if you go to Google Maps and
yeah.
you go to the city of Tokyo or Kyoto and you search for temple, it will be represented by a swastika, right?
Yes.
Even today in Google Maps.
Yes. Because I
Yeah.
remember when I went to near the Tokyo Tower, there is a very
Hmm.
huge temple, and when I
Hmm.
first saw a swastika symbol there, it gave me a goosebump because it was not Indian swastika, but it was kind of the swastika that Hitler used in his flag. So I was kind of confused that is
Yeah,
it just a
so it is.
propaganda or is it what?
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is a very auspicious symbol in the dharmic cultures, in all the dharmic cultures, whether it's
Mm,
Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, whatever, right? So you find the swastika in Mongolia, in China, in Southeast Asia, in Korea, and in Japan also. Typically, it's the inverted swastika, the reverse swastika
mm,
in Buddhism, right? So it is a symbol of tantra, etc., and all that. So there's
mm,
a whole story behind it, but you will also find it throughout Asia and other places. Now, what happened is when these in Europe, they never called it the swastika. They called
yeah.
it the Fiflot, the Gamadian, the Hakenkreuz, etc. In German, they call it the Hakenkreuz, the hooked cross. So
Hooked
the
cross. Yes.
Germans never used the word swastika for this symbol.
Mm,
And when Hitler misappropriated it and used it for his political purposes, he called it the Hakenkreuz, not the swastika. But
mm,
after the Second World was over and the Nazis were defeated, the Western writers started using the Sanskrit term swastika for the Hakenkreuz. The Hakenkreuz is one very specific misrepresentation of this symbol. It doesn't apply to everything else. So what the Nazis did was they stole the symbol and they used it for something evil, and then the Western historians applied the Sanskrit term retroactively
mm,
to this evil symbol of Nazism. And that's why today you can't use the swastika anywhere in the world. And if you talk about it, you're evil and you're Nazi and all that. That sort of nonsense needs to end. We need to reclaim the swastika and we need to impress upon the world that the symbol the Nazis used was the hooked cross, the Hakenkreuz,
mm.
not the swastika. The swastika is a symbol of auspiciousness and positivity. So that's what the world needs to be told, and we need to
Yeah.
do that, right?
I know I have crossed my one question limit, but how do you think that we can bring awareness to the Western audience?
Speak about it
Because
all the time. Yeah, speak about it, tweet about it, go on social media, talk about it. One person can't do it, but if we all pitch in, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Write articles, make videos, tweet about it, go to Facebook, go to Instagram, and talk about this. If everybody starts doing it, the whole scenario will change. So that's what needs to happen.
Right.
We
Thank
must
you very
use
much.
numbers.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Nice
you very
meeting you.
much.
Good question, sir. Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Yeah. Okay. Let's bring in Liu. Good evening. Good day. Hello.
Hello, Professor.
Hello. Hello. Where are you from, ma'am?
Good evening, Professor.
Hello.
Yeah, I am from Shanghai, and I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I have been really keen to know this, and I have tried to get your attention to this topic. I want to ask you why India and China have differences when we never had them historically before Indian independence. India and China share a lot of cultural similarities. We have both coexisted as center of powers for a long time during ancient times, and without any animosity. I have personally visited Sanxingdui area, which shows how advanced Chinese civilization was once upon a time.
Yeah, very good question, and I'm glad you bring this up. So, if you look at the history of China, it's at least 3,500 years old, right? As you must be very much aware. And India and China, we have had cultural trade, etc., relations for around 2,000 years. For around 2,000 years, I think I'm going to mute you because it's going. Yeah, okay. So we have had this relationship for a very long time. We have never ever been enemies. We have always been friends, very friendly relations. You had Chinese travelers coming to India, Indian travelers going to China. It's always been that way. What's happened in the last 60 years or so is after the Chinese annexation of Tibet, which happened in the early 1950s, India and China for the first time had a common boundary, a common border, and that border was not demarcated. It's never been demarcated. So that is essentially the root of all the problems, the long undemarcated boundary. And for some reason, it's never been agreed upon. So the two countries keep having all these multiple rounds of talks about the boundary issue, but it's never moving forward. It's never been settled. And that essentially is the root cause of the problem that we see today, the India and China or India and Tibet border, which is undemarcated. So we have differing claims, and then the soldiers keep going on and tussling and having all these little clashes, and that just keeps the tensions rising. So that is the root cause of the issues that we are seeing today. But for the longest part of history, India and China have never ever been rivals. So that's what I can offer you today. But for the longest part of history, India and China have never ever been rivals. Offer you today. But for the longest part of history, India and China have never ever been rivals. Right? Makes sense?
Okay, so what's the solution according to you?
The solution is to demarcate the boundary and become the boundary problem is the only problem. If the boundary can be demarcated for both the sides, according to both sides' satisfaction, then the problem goes away. So that's the solution. Both countries need to work on that. According to both sides' satisfaction, then the problem goes away. So that's the solution. Both countries need to work on that. All right.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you. Bye. Okay, let's bring in somebody else. Let us bring in Mr. Pushkar. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, sir. Where are you from?
Sir, I'm from Deoghar, Jharkhand.
Okay. What's your question?
Sir, my question is about dictatorship in India. So, as you told that the Western countries, they put up dictators in Africa to serve their national interest. So, why did they let India be democratic? Why didn't they ask Nehru to become a dictator in India and make India a dictatorship? As you see that Mr. Indira Gandhi, he imposed emergency on India. And after Mrs. Indira Gandhi gone, then any prime minister didn't impose emergency on India and tried to become a dictator with the Western help. So what's your views on this, sir?
Okay, very good question. Very good question. So you know what? You know what is the best form of dictatorship? The best form of dictatorship is a dictatorship that looks like a democracy. When you have only one party that keeps getting elected again and again and again, and if you have only one set of people who are ruling you for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, that is the best form of dictatorship. It looks like a democracy, it functions like a democracy. You have elections, and yet you have the same people getting elected all over again, over and over. So that's how India functioned until now, until very recently. India is now making a transition to a more democratic country. India is still not a proper full democracy because there are so many other problems. So that's why. So you see, what the British did is when they left India, they installed a set of people who carried on the legacy of the British. India is still governed as if it is under British occupation. We have the same laws. We have a constitution that has its roots in the 1935 Act, which the British passed. And all the institutions of India are still acting as if they are British institutions. The institutions have never been reformed. So we are essentially still under, in a way, under foreign occupation, under foreign rule. So that is the perfect scenario. You don't need to put a Saddam Hussein kind of person when you can have this sort of a drama going on, right? So that's what happened.
So, sir,
That's what
that
happened.
means you're going to say that 50, 60 years elections were manipulated.
No, 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 no. It is not. See, it's a good question again. They were not. I mean, I don't know if they were manipulated, but the people were so brainwashed into believing this freedom struggle nonsense that we got freedom without any violence, and we owe everything to the Congress party. That the people themselves happily kept on voting again and again for the same party. And you keep them illiterate, you keep them uneducated, you keep them poor, and then you position yourself as the only savior. They will keep voting for you. It's only today with social media that people are seeing the reality. And now that party is no longer in power. So now things are changing. And now that's why you see so much opposition to India in the Western media, because that structure is falling. You see, that's how it works. Got
Thank
it,
you,
sir?
sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let us bring in. Whom shall I bring in? Let's bring in Mr. Anant. Hello.
Hello, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar. How are you doing? Where are you from?
Sir, I'm from Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh. How are you, sir?
Nice to meet you. I'm very well. I'm very well. What's your question, sir?
Sir, my question is that around the start of 20th century, there were three spiritual gurus that were present in India: Sai Baba,
Mhm.
Swami Vivekananda, and Paramahansa Yogananda. And sir, as we have read and heard, that they have made huge contributions towards the society, and their contributions abroad also, and have established a good image of India. So, sir, my question here is that if they had those immense powers, or for the lack of a better word, I would say special or superpowers. Sir, could it have made a difference if they had made their contribution being in India towards the freedom struggle also? Uh, because it's never discussed about that they have made their contribution in freedom struggle or anything like this.
Okay, so good question, right? So you're saying there were three spiritual gurus: Swami Vivekananda, Sai Baba, and who's the third one? Paramahansa Yogananda, right?
Shri Paramahansa Yogananda, yeah.
Right. So you're saying these, yeah. So first of all, I don't know if they had superpowers, like they could fly or have magic, but yes, they had very immense spiritual attainments. That is what is understood about them. They were very, very highly accomplished spiritually. Yes, that's what what is understood about these three great people. So your question is, why did they not contribute to the freedom struggle? It's because, see, everybody has certain aptitudes and certain strengths. Now, I may be a good scientist. It doesn't mean I'll be a good cricketer or a good footballer. I may not be a good something else, right? And similarly, if somebody is spiritually very advanced, it doesn't mean that they'll be able to contribute in every field. A person who is a wonderfully accomplished spiritual guru may not be a great footballer or a great politician or a great scientist, right? Everybody,
Yes, sir.
especially somebody who has such incredible advanced attainments in a certain field, it takes a lifetime of discipline and dedication to reach that stage, and you have to focus only on one field, and then you can
Yes.
uh, help people, you can teach people things, but you may not be able to get involved in politics. Politics is a very dirty game. And the freedom struggle, it was all politics. There was no freedom struggle
Yes.
there. It was all satyagraha and all this make believe struggle. There was no actual a real freedom struggle involves violence. You have to throw out the foreign occupier and kick them out against their will. That is a real freedom struggle. India never had a freedom struggle. And the real freedom fighters are the ones who were jailed, who were hanged, who were killed on the streets, and their names are not remembered. So it's a very different thing. And so that's what I can say. See, a person who is a spiritually accomplished person may not be able to become a great politician or something else in a different field. And that's why I they could, from their perspective, from their in whatever manner they could. That's what I can say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for choosing
All right,
me.
nice meeting you. Thanks for the question.
Have a good day, sir.
Okay, let us bring in somebody else. Let's bring in Mr. Ishan, who's been waiting for quite some time. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you doing? Where are you from, sir?
From Milky Way.
From the Milky Way. That's a fantastic answer. I've seen you before, right? Yes. What's your
Yes.
question, sir?
Yes, sir. So I had a question. So you've spoken about books like Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, Art of War. So I wanted to ask you, how do you read these books? How do you establish the discipline to read these books? Because I've seen it that especially Indians, their mind tends to be like fast, let's read it fast and more faster. I just want to finish it. They get overwhelmed. So how do you establish the discipline to read such books, and how do you read them? What's the technique?
Yes, that's a very good question. How to learn something and how to be disciplined in reading books. So, first of all, I have never had to discipline myself to read books. I have always been interested in knowledge and I have always been driven by my curiosity. So, if you ask me to read a book on something I don't find interesting, I will not have the discipline to read it. I can only read stuff that I find interesting. So if my curiosity takes me to that place, then I will not need discipline to read the book. So that's the first thing. Now, how do I actually read a book? Like for instance, the Arthashastra, it's a very large book. How do I read it? So I give myself permission to forget everything I read. I'm gonna read it, and I'm not gonna try and memorize things, underline things, read this paragraph 3 times. No, I'll just read it. I read quite fast, so I give myself the permission to forget everything. And I know that if I have that permission, then the things that I find especially interesting, I will retain that. So it is something. So for instance, the Arthashastra, if you read it 5 times, you will learn new things every time. So that's how I do it. I don't retain everything 100% when I read something. I may retain 20% or 30% at most in one reading. Then I will revisit it. So it takes time. It's not something you can do in a week. A book like the Arthashastra, it may take you maybe 5 years, 10 years to master it, which is a very huge amount of time from your perspective, right? So it's like that. See, learning is a lifelong process. It's not like by the time you're 18 or 20, you have to learn everything and then you go and live your life. No, learning is a lifelong process. So I allow myself to be led and driven by my curiosity. I don't even try to read a book in its entirety. I may find some chapter interesting. I'll read this chapter right now. Then I'll put it away and later I may revisit it at a later time. So that's how I do it. There are so many books I have read only some part of it, maybe one third, one a half or something. I never try force myself to complete a book. If it is no longer interesting after 5 chapters, I throw it away. I throw it away. I just keep it aside, and that's how I do it. So that is the way I read, and that's how I've always been, and that's worked for me. It may not work for everybody, but I can offer you my perspective. Right? All right, sir.
Yes, sir. Just one more suggestion.
Suggestion, yes, sir. What's the suggestion?
Yes, I don't know if you remember it, but I think in the first session when I first came here, I told you to make something on Otto and Bismarck. So since the
On what?
podcast has been Otto and Bismarck.
Otto and Bismarck. Yeah, okay.
So since the podcast is here, can you, sometime in the future, just invite some person who has gone deep into his life and all that?
What a great suggestion. Very, very good suggestion. I will certainly try and do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah,
Thank
sir,
you.
just one more. Yeah. Just one more
Yes,
thing.
that's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. Okay, tell me, what is the one more thing? Tell me. Go ahead.
Okay. So actually, I'm reading one book. It's called Retaining Balance by M.R. Venkatesh.
Is this a question?
No, it's not a question. So I was just thinking that can you invite him and
Who exactly? Who is it?
M.R. Venkatesh.
M.R. Venkatesh. Okay, I will look him up and let's see. Yeah. Thanks for the suggestion. Thank you. Bye bye. Right. As always, we have lots of people waiting in the queue. So let's bring in Mr. Kabir Bisla. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. How are you doing? Where are you
Hello,
from,
sir.
sir?
Sir, Meerut, sir.
Meerut.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's your
Yes, sir.
question,
Yes,
sir?
sir. Yes, sir. So my question is about Subhash Chandra Bose.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, you have done your podcast with Anuj Dhar, and sir,
Yeah.
in there you concluded that he was alive till 85, and
Okay. Yeah.
he didn't come out because the sanctions British. So, sir, I want to ask, sir, even after his death, why are they not revealing that his true identity?
After his death, why are they not revealing his true identity? That's a good question. I think what Anuj Dhar said is that the entire story of the so-called independence struggle is based upon a lie. They have elevated the stature of Mr. Mohandas Gandhi to the high heavens, and now if the truth about Subhash Chandra Bose is revealed, then the entire investment these people have done in building up the image of Mohandas Gandhi will kind of be wasted, because people will realize the real contributions of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and they will realize what Mr. Gandhi did, and so on and so forth. So that is the reason, just to protect the image of Mr. Gandhi. And of course, we know that the government invests a lot of effort, a lot of time, energy in propping up the image of Mr. Gandhi. All the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and everything is based upon the image of Mr. Gandhi, right? They're using Mr. Gandhi as the logo and the mascot for all of these things. And
And sir, in
if
the
a,
West
a
also he
different
sells
kind of
more.
truth comes out, then that entire investment will be in vain. So that is the argument I believe Mr. Anuj Dhar has made. So I am still in the process of reading the book, so I have yet to draw concrete conclusions. But I think that is the what was discussed on that day in our podcast,
Yes.
and I think it's quite plausible what he is saying. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Nice meeting you again. Okay, let's bring in someone who's been waiting for a while. Who is there? Let's bring in Mr. Som Sharma. Hello.
Hi, sir. Big fan of
Hi.
you,
How are
sir.
you? Thank
Big
you so
fan of
much.
you,
Nice
sir.
meeting you. Thank you. Thank you. Where are
Yes,
you from,
sir.
sir?
I am from Chhattisgarh, Bemitara. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
My first question is how we can revive Sanskrit language and how Hebrew was revived. What are the challenges faced by Hebrew to revive it?
Right. So
And
that's a very good
yeah,
question. Yeah.
yeah, sir. That's my
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
How we can revive Sanskrit and what are the challenges in this
Yeah.
journey?
All right. So let's talk about Hebrew. So the Hebrew language was not in use for a very long time. It's an ancient language. It's the original language of the Jewish people. Now the Jewish people were scattered across Eurasia, mostly in Europe, for a very long time, and for over 1,000 years, the Hebrew language was not in use. They spoke languages like Yiddish, etc., that had some elements of the Hebrew vocabulary, etc., but it was mixed up with other languages like German and so on and so forth. So when the nation was of Israel was created in the 1940s, then the Jewish people, their government decided to revive Hebrew, and they made the teaching of Hebrew compulsory in all the schools classrooms, and they made it the medium of education. So just in 10-20 years, it was very easy to bring Hebrew back and make it a living language again. And now all the official communications, all the news, all the media, everything is in Hebrew. So it's not something you can do next week or next month. It takes 10-20 years. and Israel is a small country, so the challenges were less, and there was very little opposition to reviving Hebrew in Israel. When it comes to India, India is a deeply fragmented country. We are still deeply colonized. If you say we're going to revive Sanskrit, then all kinds of people will rise up against India, rise up against this endeavor. So the challenge is much larger in India, because the education system has created this attitude among everybody who gets educated that India is a backward culture, in Sanskrit is the language of oppression, and all that nonsense. It is being officially taught in our education system. They are brainwashing all the kids, all the youngsters. So that is the big challenge. So how do you bring back Sanskrit? You need a strong enough leader who will do it despite the opposition. That's the first thing. And secondly, make it compulsory in education. Make Sanskrit the official language in education. Start 1 year at a time. Start from next year's kindergarten, KG, then junior KG, then senior KG. Then over 20 years, you can extend it to all levels of the education system. So it has to be a phased deployment, and of course, it will face opposition. But if you have a strong enough leadership, it is certainly possible. So I would say that it would take about 20-30 years at most to bring back Sanskrit into the mainstream. It would not take long. It's not a dead language for thousands of years. For instance, until the 19th century, it was the official language. It was the medium of education in schools and temples across the country, everywhere.
Yeah,
It
also
is the British who
Britishers.
destroyed the education system of India, and they wiped out Sanskrit. Yes, sir. What are you saying?
Sir, if our Rishi Munis were far-sighted, so they must have protected our text
So
and
one question per person. One question per person. I think it's very clear. I've made it very clear.
yeah.
Only one question per person. Right?
Sorry.
All right. So thank you for the question, and maybe next time you can ask another one.
Yeah,
All
sir.
right.
I am waiting
All
for
right.
since a long for your
Everybody is waiting.
podcast.
Everybody is waiting.
Yeah.
Nice meeting
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Very
Big
good
fan.
question. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. All right. Let's bring in Mr. Pavan. Hello.
Hi, sir. Namaste, sir. How are
Hi.
you?
How are you? Namaste. Namaste. I'm very
Yeah, I'm
well. Where are
fine,
you
sir.
from, sir?
I am from Telangana, sir.
Telangana. Very nice. What's your question, sir?
Sir, who was ruling before Nandas? We know India is an ancient civilization, but I think recorded history says it seems like Nandas were the first empire, but who's actually ruling before Nandas? Maybe before Magadha Empire.
It's a very good question, and I don't have an accurate answer. We know that, see, if you look at India's history textbooks, if you look at writers from the past like R.C. Majumdar, I think the Nanda dynasty is considered to be where Indian history officially begins, because before that the records are not very clear or whatever, and because the British had to compress Indian history into a certain time frame, that's why everything seems to start with the Nanda dynasty and the Mauryan dynasty at the time of the Buddha, etc. But of course there was much more before that, but we don't have the details. So even I don't have a clear idea of exactly who was there before the Nanda dynasty. So the Nanda dynasty was in Magad, that is Bihar, and that region, Bihar, Bengal, Orissa, that region. I am not quite sure. That's a very good question you've asked, and unfortunately I can't think of who was ruling that region before the Nandas. Obviously somebody must be doing it. I think I will have to look it up, and I will have to answer that question in a future episode. But you brought out a very good question. I'm not sure we have the answers, but I think I need to look that up. That's what I can say. All right, sir. Thank you for the question.
No problem,
Thank you.
sir. Yeah, thank you. Yes,
Very
sir.
nice meeting you. Very nice meeting you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure, sir.
Bye.
Please don't stop. Please. Sir. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you so much. Okay, let's bring in. Whom shall we bring in? Let's bring in Mr. Guru. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
My
Hi,
name
where are
is
you from,
Guru.
sir?
I'm from Bangalore, sir. Sir, so
Bangalore.
my
All right, sir.
question
What's your
is,
question? Yeah.
is time cyclical or linear? If it is cyclical, where does it start? Can we break this cycle and view it in a third person's perspective?
Okay, good question. I have never seen any evidence of cyclical time. I know certain very eminent, etc., writers, etc., talk about cyclical time. I've even read the papers. They try to introduce a certain kind of differential equation, a very complicated, convoluted differential equation, to say that time is cyclic. See, I'm a simple person. I look at I see time from a physics perspective, and from the perspective of physics, we don't quite know what time is. Of course, we use the time variable in our equations and all that. And if you look at the entire known history of the universe, if you look at the best theory that we have of the history of the universe, which is the so-called Big Bang theory, the standard model, all that, time begins 13.8 billion years before today, which is the event which is known as the Big Bang, which is actually the expansion of space-time from a very small from essentially what looks like was a singularity. And from that, time has flowed in one direction. Now we don't quite know what time is. Time is very mysterious. It's still not understood at all. But from everything we know from a physics perspective, time has only flown in one direction. Of course, the equations are bilinear. They can go back in time also, and that's why we were able to trace back what could have happened in the beginning. So that's what I can say. I have never seen any evidence. I mean, I don't know on what basis people claim that time is cyclical. When they bring in philosophical and spiritual concepts into physics, it's no longer physics. So, from my perspective, I can only say that the time is linear. I have seen no. We have the theory of the yugas and all. That is not cyclical time. That is simply history repeating itself. So that is not the idea of cyclical time. The time itself is cyclical. Historical events follow cycles. That is true, but that is not cyclical time. That is just human history that has patterns that repeat itself. That you of course see that. So from my perspective, from a physics perspective, I have seen no evidence whatsoever of cyclical time. I know some people talk about that. There's a big following also, but no, I go on the basis of evidence, and there is no evidence for that. So that's what I can tell you.
So we can think that. So can we say that historical events repeating themselves is?
Sorry, I didn't get you. Could you repeat that?
So means if something in history is repeating again, so people are calling it
Yes.
a cycle of time coming again.
I am not sure if that's what they call cycle of time. I don't get their arguments. Their arguments don't really make a lot of sense to me. I regret to say that. But from the perspective of physics, from the perspective of science, time is just time. It doesn't go in cycles unless there is a cyclic universe of which we have no evidence. So that's what I can tell you.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Have a good
You
day.
too. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. Let us bring in Mr. Pranav. Hello.
Namaste, sir. Am I
Namaste.
audible?
Namaste. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
Where are you from, sir?
Yes, sir. Patliputra, Patna now.
Patliputra. Beautiful place.
Yes, sir. So my question is, what happened with the Buddhists of Bihar after the invasion took place? Like we know, like Buddhism was the majority religion of Bihar before the Turkic invasion, but like Buddhism just got disappeared, and like how Hinduism became one of the major religion here, and Buddhism just got disappeared.
Okay, very good question. So, firstly, there is no difference between Buddhism and Hinduism. Just like there is no difference between the Vedanta philosophy. See, the differences are very small, very minuscule, and those tiny 2% differences have been blown out of proportion, and that's what has been used by the British and the foreign colonizers to create these divisions in Indian society. Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, these are all under the dharmic umbrella. They're all part of Dharma, and that's what I would say first of all. So see, Hinduism, Buddhism, these are foreign concepts. It's just Dharma, and Dharma comes in a variety of flavors and all that, right? So these are not separate religions. It's not religion. First of all, religion means one book, one prophet, and one god. We don't follow that, right? So now what happened to Buddhism is the question, because that particular flavor or variety of Dharma was prevalent at different points in time in various parts of India. Like you say, in Magad, in the Bihar region, etc., in Patliputra, and so on, you had what you would call Buddhism was prevalent at the time. For instance, if you look at the University of Nalanda, it is portrayed as a Buddhist university, but you know what? They were teaching everything there, including the four Vedas. but historians want to portray it in a certain light. Now, when you talk about the demise of what we call Buddhism, the Turks, they came from Central Asia, right? Now, before the Turks took over Central Asia, the entire region of Central Asia was dharmic, and you had what we call Buddhism all over the place in the entirety of Central Asia, in Hinduism also. For instance, if you go to, even if you go to Armenia, you find remains of Hindu temples there. And all across Central Asia, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and so on and so forth, you find the destroyed remains of Buddhist stupas everywhere. And who destroyed it? These Turks did that. So they had this great zeal to destroy statues of the Buddha and to destroy everything that looked like Buddhism. And they called these statues, these murtis, they called them Buddh because it was Buddha. They only saw statues of Buddha across Central Asia. So when they finally invaded India and occupied parts of India, they went after every single representation of Buddha. They wanted to destroy every representation of Buddha they could find, and that's why they went after Buddhism. And that's how Buddhism, or the Bodha Dharma, part of Dharma, was completely eradicated from India. It was not Brahmins who did that or Hindus who did that. It is the Turks who did that. They destroyed every single Buddhist statue. You will not find a single statue of the Buddha in India whose head is still on the shoulders. They are all headless. It's the Turks who did
I
that.
have seen this.
And then,
I have seen those. I have seen those.
yes, and they did not stop at simply beheading the statues. They beheaded all the teachers, all the monks, everybody. So that's why the living memory of Buddhism, of Bodh Dharma, was wiped out from India by the Turks. So that is what happened. All right.
And so I have just a related question from this. Like, why dharma got eradicated from Indonesia and Southeast Asia, but not from India?
That's a whole different story. I will take one question per person, so we'll stop at
Okay.
that. Maybe next
Thank
time
you
we
so
can
much,
take
sir.
it up, right? Thank you so much. Thank
Sure,
you.
sir.
Nice
Thank you
meeting
so
you. Okay. Let's bring in Mr. Alok.
Namaste, sir. Am I audible, sir?
I can hear you. A lot of noise.
Okay, sir. Am I
It's a lot
audible,
of
sir?
noise. It's a lot of noise.
Am I audible?
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna bring you back later. Sorry, very sorry. Let's bring in somebody else. Let's bring in Mr. Amit. Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Big fan.
Thank you so much. Where are you from, sir?
I'm from West UP, sir. Right now, I'm here in Bangalore.
All right. All right.
And first of all, I just wanted to congratulate you. Um, you've brought back this discussion on Indic revival, and folks like us, we're falling in love with our culture again. And it's all thanks to people like you. So my question is, so there's a lot of discussion around changes in curriculum and education system that we need, and we know right now, uh, right from the beginning, we are taught that we are taught all about our all about how we've been um, um, how we've been so my question is, how will that change basically come about? Like, will the government have to do it? Will they have to um, change something in the constitution, make some laws, or should we do something about it? Like, basically start from our homes, and that will bring about that change.
So you are asking, how do we change the education system? How do we change the curriculum? I think that
Yeah.
is entirely in the hands of the government, because the government controls the curriculum, the government controls everything, the UGC, etc., and so on and so forth. So they have come up with a new education policy, which is like much more of the same, actually. Some small changes, structural changes here and there, but it's not really a big change. So what needs to happen is the, the the education system is entirely controlled by the government of India. So it is only they who can change the system, the structure, the textbooks, and whatever else, right? So they have to do it. But today, what we are finding is that the education system is quickly, in the next 10, 20 years at most, it's going to become quite irrelevant, because the degrees that they are offering, they have no actual real world use in the 21st century. They're giving these MAs in English literature and God knows what silly, what MSc in home science, and God knows what silly courses still exist. 19th century courses, they're still giving them out. You know what? These courses don't give you any real skills that you can use in the 21st century to get a job and to make a difference in the world. So increasingly what you will find is that these courses will go out of either go out of existence, or they'll become so irrelevant that people will not take them. And what you will find is people will start acquiring skills and online certifications or whatever to demonstrate you have the skills and you can use them. So that is another avenue by which the education system will become irrelevant. And as you can see, you can get almost any kind of knowledge for free online today. So people who are driven by curiosity, who want to gain the real knowledge about their past, about their heritage, they will start finding it online. So that's two ways. Either the government does it, or the people will seek it out on their own. But unfortunately, the education system is still something kids have to go through, and that has this brainwashing effect in which they start hating their own culture and feel ashamed of their own culture. For that, I have been saying for a very long time, the government needs to take steps. Maybe they feel it's not still the right time for that. They won't wait another 10 years or so. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not privy to what their plans are. So that's just what I can say. That's where we are today.
All right, sir. I'll just finish
All
by
right.
saying that I'm a computer engineer and I love the
Huh.
content you put out, especially uh, that talk that you did with Dr. Subhash. I absolutely loved it, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you. Okay. Whom shall I bring in? Let's bring in Mr. Prajwal Singh. Hello.
Sir. Uh, Nice meeting you. I've been waiting for very long. So I'm from Azamgarh. It's in Uttar Pradesh. And my question is regarding technology. So there's a new project from my heart is beating very fast because I've been waiting.
Relax, sir. Relax. There's no need to be tense. Not at all. Relax.
So
Yeah.
regarding the technology that what are your thoughts upon metaverse, like Mark Zuckerberg's new project?
Yes, the metaverse. That's what everyone is talking about. So the metaverse is going to be this augmented reality kind of thing, in which you will have holograms, people, representations of people in holographic form, sitting in the same room as you, even though they are in a different continent, that sort of thing. And you are going to have a reality that is augmented. So you're gonna be living in a virtual world that kind of is. Is in addition to the real world that we live in, and that sort of thing. A cryptocurrency will play a big role in that. So that's the kind of thing they are trying to create. They have renamed Facebook to Meta. That's what Mark Zuckerberg has done, and there's a huge amount of investment that's happening in that. So it is expected that over the next 10 years, the entire technology will change, and we will increasingly be living um, a mixed kind of life. Half of it will be real, half of it will be in the cyber universe, and that sort of thing. So that's what the metaverse is going to be like. That's what they're trying to create. There's going to be a whole economy built around that. Like I said, cryptocurrency would be a very big component of that. And you will have virtual real estate in the metaverse, which you can buy and sell, and you can do all kinds of things in that. And that's what it's like. So let's see how it goes. It looks like that's a very big part of the future, whether we like it or not. The world is going to be like that. Is it going to be good for us, bad for us? Only time will tell. But that is the direction the world is it certainly seems to be going towards.
So does it carries a lot of cons as well? Because a lot of people portray it in negative light that it's kind of negative evolution for social media. It's,
So
both of
what they're saying is that this may essentially cut off our connection with the real world. We will try and always be in this make-believe artificial world, and it's like an addiction of some sort, right? In the past, people used to get addicted to drugs and all that opium or whatnot, and today they will spend their entire time in this imaginary virtual world. They will stop exercising, stop going out, stop socializing, and all that. So yes, there are certainly big drawbacks to this sort of thing, but there's big money being poured into it. So yeah, it could certainly very much happen and be the shape of tomorrow. So let's see how it goes. there are pros and cons to everything. There seems to be a lot of cons, like you said, but that's just the way the world is. It's about capitalism. It's about making money.
A lot of power will be transferred to just one person. So it's a
Yeah, yeah,
kind of an empire
yeah.
of
True.
sort of. So that was it. Nice meeting
All
you,
right.
and
Thank you so much. Nice
have a
meeting you.
great.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Thank
Nice meeting you. Bye. All right. Let's bring in Mr. Utkarsh. Hello.
Hello, sir. Sir, I
Hello.
have been
Nice
hoping to
meeting you.
ask you regarding. Hello, yes, sir. I'm living in China and I'm from New Delhi. Hello.
Okay.
So, sir, I have been hoping to ask you, like, is communism the problem, or is just America the problem, or it's just the implementation of communism the problem? Secondly, this is an extension to my question. Like, I think if America was actually concerned about human rights, Uyghurs or Tibetans, in any case, like, why are they not concerned about the same people who are living in, like, there was a Rwandan genocide in Africa. There has been genocides in different parts of the world where America never intervened directly, but where they see their profit, they just intervene. So are we being played? Are India and China being played? Is this the new great game where we are just being played? Like, India is the only massive economy or massive country that can counter China in all of Asia. So do you think we are just being played by US? Or are they really concerned about democracy? We just okay, I just shed some
Okay.
light on it.
See, democracy is just a pretext. It is something they use when it's convenient for them to. They use it as a stick to beat other countries with. They also bring out the issue of human rights whenever it suits them. If we look at history, at historical records, you will see that this country, the United States, has itself done all kinds of human rights abuses. I don't think that's a controversial topic. It's all a part of the historical record. You can look up, there's massive amounts of literature that corroborates this. So the US, it uses human rights as a stick to beat certain countries with when it's convenient for them. They talk about democracy, but look at the certain countries they support, like Saudi Arabia. Is that a democracy? It's not a democracy, but they're perfectly happy to be in bed with them. So it's all about convenience. The US, after all, at the end of the day, is concerned with its long-term national interest. They want to retain their hegemony all over across the world. They are the only superpower in the world as of today. They are the only country that controls the global economy, that has their currency is the global reserve currency, and they are the only country that has military bases all across the world. No other country has that, and they want to retain this superpower status. It's essentially an imperial system, and certainly they will want to play one country against the other. Right now the Chinese are rising. Their ambition is to displace the US and replace them as the superpower, as the sole superpower by 2050 or something like that, right? So the US perceive China as a big threat, and for now they will use India as a bulwark against China. But if India becomes too big again in the future, they will have the same attitude towards India also. So it's all, from the US perspective, it's all about retaining their hegemonic position. Nothing else matters. So, in some sense, India and China are being played, but the Chinese also have the same ambitions. They also have the hegemonic ambitions, and they want to replace the US. So, the Chinese are also a similar kind of nation. They are also currently showing this imperialist tendency. They are bullying all their neighbors, all the Asian nations. So, it makes sense as of today for India and the US and the Quad countries and everybody else to band together and contain China. But in geopolitics, there are no permanent friendships, there are no permanent alliances, there are no permanent adversarial relationships. It's all about what's convenient right now. So for India, from India's perspective, India has to build up its economy, its military power, and hopefully India will be the superpower, in which case the world, I think, will be a better place, because India doesn't have that expansionist imperialist culture. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Good question. Thank you, sir.
Nice.
Okay, let us bring in Sejal Matre. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Hi. Where are you
Yes,
from,
so
ma'am?
I'm from Mumbai, and I'm
Okay.
a law student, currently pursuing law. So I have this question about radia tapes. So I have searched a lot about radia tapes. Like if you talk about the present government, even the slightest small controversy is blown out of so much proportion. But such a major controversy like radia tapes, I did not see any information on the internet, or nor there was any such discussion at that time as well.
Right, that's a very
So I just
interesting
want to know
point you
like
bring out.
what is yeah. So I
Yeah.
want to know like where we can get information about the same, and why isn't there much talk about this?
Yeah, I don't know where you would get information about the Radia tapes. I've never tried to look for it. Of course, I'm aware of that entire issue where all these so-called journalists, they were acting as power brokers on behalf of the then ruling regime in India, which is the Congress Party. So what this tells you is that, see, like you said, that incident, they tried to downplay it and they tried to not report about it at all. And today, if any little thing happens, they will make a big hue and cry about everything that they can twist and portray as the government not doing things right. So what it tells you is that the media has never been free. It's never been a free, impartial media. They have worked as agents of the ruling power. It's always been that way, and that is not something you will only find in India. It's what you will find anywhere in the world. Look at the United States. I'll not take names, but various media companies, etc. They have their own political agendas and they have their own various masters that they have to serve. So the media, we have to wait. Today we are waking up and finding out that the media has never been free. The media has never reported things impartially. The media is a business. They have sources of funding, and when you have somebody who's funding you, you're going to have to do what they tell you to do, right? And who has the most money in the country? It's various political parties and various intermediaries who can funnel that money into various media organizations. So I'm not saying that all media organizations are like this, and I'm not saying that all politicians are doing this, but one could safely assume that overall there's a high probability that any media company, any reporter could possibly have some such motivations. So that explains why historically India's media has served a certain political party, all of them. That's why they try to downplay whatever happened, all those revelations that were leaked out, and that's why today they're trying to portray everything the current government does as bad. That's the way the game is played. All right,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Uh let's bring in Mr. Krishna. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Namaste. Namaskaram.
Namaste. Namaste. Where are you from, sir?
Sir, I'm from Kerala. I have been
Okay.
in this channel like 2 weeks ago.
I think you look familiar. Yes, must be.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we did. We did.
Nice meeting you again. What's your
Yeah,
question, sir?
it's a pleasure, sir. So, my question is that there is a thing that most of ancient knowledges, which what we had during our past, most of them have been either destroyed and they have been transported to the European nations during the colonial era. And those Vedic knowledges and what the knowledges that we had during those time were used by the Europeans for their advantages and the development what we are seeing today in the Europe and the foreign nations are mostly due to our Vedic knowledges like medicines, making of metals, and so on. So what are the knowledges what they have gained from here and used there for other than industrial revolution, charka, and that the metallurgy and so on? What are the knowledges what they have looted from here and used there, and which is
Yeah.
the total basis of their technological investment?
Right. So I could make the claim with a reasonable amount of confidence that most of modern science that we have today is built upon a foundation of ancient Indian science and knowledge. So, for instance, all of the mathematics uh, that was developed in Europe during the scientific revolution, etc., it was all based upon information that was taken out of India. For instance, calculus, trigonometry, algebra, and much more. The various all of it. Even the decimal system that went out of India via the Arabs, it made its way there, and also the all the knowledge of astronomy, pharmacology, toxicology. Ayurveda made its way over there. Then it was repurposed in different ways. Uh, there was a huge amount of astronomical data observations that was taken out of India, and it made its way into Europe, and that was the basis of the Kepler's laws, the Kepler's three laws of planetary motion, and so on and so forth. So everything they were, so what they did was they took this knowledge and they weaponized it. We did not weaponize it, they weaponized it. That's what happened. So there's a whole lot of ancient Hindu science that was taken out of India, and it made its way into Europe via the Arabic world. The Arabs never tried to hide the fact that this was Indian knowledge. They made it very clear that this is Indian knowledge, Hindu knowledge, but the Europeans, they plagiarized it and did not attribute it to India. And that's why we think everything is it originated in Europe. So I have a podcast coming up on Tuesday with Dr. Alok Kumar, who has written this book, Ancient Hindu Science. So I think you should all watch that, and he goes into more detail about how this happened and what knowledge was taken out of India. So that's what I can say in brief, that a huge amount of knowledge was taken out of India, and it is now known as European knowledge, and the entire basis of modern science is that.
So the basis of this question is that so most of those evangelists or the people who convert, they are claiming that it is the Europeans who gave us information. It is
They will claim it. They will claim it. Yeah, it is lies. It is all lies, right? They're lying.
Yeah, because they are lying through their teeth. Like most of the information are coming from there. We have nothing. All of those contributions, even the languages are brought from there, and they even claimed that Sanskrit was a foreign language. So
yeah,
it's truly saddening to see that. So that's it.
So hopefully India is now slowly waking up, and we will see the truth. So it's all about spreading the knowledge and learning the truth.
And you're doing a wonderful job. And you're doing an
Thank you
amazing
so
job.
much. Thank you so much. All right, nice meeting you.
Namaste.
Thanks. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Thank you. Bye. Okay, let us take one last person for today. I know lots of people are waiting. My apologies, I can only take one. Let's bring in Mr. Gautam. Hello.
Good evening, sir. I
Good
hope you
evening.
are fine, sir.
very
Actually,
well.
I have one question, but two parts to it.
Where are you from? First of all, where are you from?
I'm from Odisha, sir.
Odisha. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, what's your question?
The first part of my question is that how did string theory fail? And the second part to it is that I was searching about the new alternative to string theory, and I came across quantum loop gravity, and I didn't quite understand it. So I would like if you shed some light to it.
Okay, what you're talking about is loop quantum gravity, LQG. I think it is very difficult for most people at any age to understand LQG. It is so complicated, so mathematical. So first of all, you're saying how can we conclude that string theory has failed? So
Yes.
so any theory of nature, any theory in physics must make testable, falsifiable predictions, right? It must predict some phenomena. It must predict some new results, and those predictions must be testable and falsifiable. If a theory does not meet these criteria, it is not a scientific theory. It's a pseudoscientific theory. And string theory in all these decades has not been able to make a single testable, falsifiable prediction, right? And therefore it has failed. It gives rise to 10 raised to 500 different versions of the universe.
Yes.
Or they call it the string theory multiverse, or the string theory landscape. That is nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. A theory needs to be precise. It needs to make real world predictions in this universe, right? So the string theory has consumed a lot of funding, a lot of time, a lot of careers, but it has not given us any new predictions of what the world is like, and that's why it has failed. Now there are many proposed alternatives, one of which is loop quantum gravity. So loop quantum gravity is a different kind of thing. It talks about a certain kind of, it says that space-time originates in these space-time loops, and the intersections of the loops, they give rise to gravity, and time also comes out of it. And the smallest unit of volume is, I think, 10 of the order of 10 raised to minus 99 meters or so. I don't remember exactly. I have a short clip about that. on this channel that you can look into, that you can
Okay.
watch. I think I've
Okay, sir.
given more precise details in that. So that's what LQG is. To study it and do that, you need to actually dive deep into physics. So I think you're a little young for that, but maybe in the future you may do it, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
All right, nice meeting you. Thank you so much. Bye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think lots of people want. Okay, let's bring in one more person. Last person for today. Let's bring in Charmi. Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you for taking my question.
You're from
Sir,
Australia, right? If I yeah.
not today, sir. Today I'm in India.
You're in
So
India. Welcome back home, madam.
thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, what's your
So,
question?
sir, like my question is, like we see this lot of neo-Hinduism coming up, like, lots of gurus and babas, and they often come up with like, nice, uh, like it's in a way I find it's good also that like that way like we get a lot of interest from youngsters or even from probably foreigners. But it's actually, is it really good? Because just if you allow me to elaborate a little bit, like, you just have got yoga is branded as non-Hindu. And like sometimes, I mean, maybe it's just to attract foreigners or other religion people. But it's also a madness. Like, why do we want to attract foreigners? Why do we want to impress them with our culture when we are not really sure? We are kind of like we also don't know what it is, and it's so also confuses. So, is it really good long term for India? Is it really good long term for Dharma? I mean, very confusing. What do you think?
Very good question. Very good question. So we have this proliferation of self-styled gurus. If you have a few $1,000 and if you can open a yoga studio, then you can call yourself a guru. So there are
Yes.
all these gurus who have come up, who are cropping up like mushrooms after the rain. And so the word guru had a very specific meaning in the old days before our culture was wiped out, more or less. And today that term is used very lightly, in a very facile manner. So all these gurus, in my opinion, are not real gurus. A guru was, in the old days, was a very highly accomplished person. You needed to put in a lifetime of study and discipline and dedication to attain the status of a real guru. Before that, you were adhyapak or whatever, different levels that you had to
Yeah.
rise through to eventually become a guru. And you would not typically become a guru until the age of 45, 50, or maybe even more than that. Today everybody is a guru, and they are interpreting, like you said, dharma, yoga in a variety of different ways, just in order to make money. It's all capitalism, isn't it? It's all about making money. And there
Yes.
are some other people who are trying to draw a more spiritually inclined audience by giving themselves various titles and so on. So it's again about getting funds, about getting money. It's all capitalistic. And this,
Yes.
like you rightly point out, it is in the long term going to have a very bad influence and a bad effect on what our culture is, what our dharma is, because now anybody can say that I know what your dharma is, and this is
Yes.
the real dharma. That's what's
Yes.
happening. So we have lost our standards. What we need is a standards institute. For instance, we India needs to create a yoga standards institute, which will be the global institute that determines what is yoga, what is not yoga. And
Yep.
that's what needs to happen. Then we will be able to standardize things, and we will be able to draw a line between what is yoga and what is not yoga. And similarly, for the various different dharmic philosophies, we need to have that system instituted, and real gurus need to be put in place. So right now it's like it's a free for all situation. There is this individual called Wim Hof who has stolen pranayam, who has stolen the path of the Himalayan yogis who sit in the snow, and he has combined these two things and he calls it the Wim Hof method. Right? So that is cultural theft that he is doing, and he is making millions of dollars out of it. So all these fake gurus have cropped up, and it is really bad for us. So it is for India to do something about it. Right now nothing is happening, but I hope in the future something happens. So I'm really glad you brought this up. It's a very, very good question, very legitimate concern that you have. And I hope the government, because it's a government that can set up these institutes. We can't do it. We don't have the funding unless 50 or 100 or 1,000 people get together. In that case, who will decide? So the government needs to take the initiative, you know.
See, the thing is that like it's not even that. It's also like we as an Indian we have this mentality to impress like someone with the white skin, no matter what. And in that like we are. I mean, obviously all the other factors are there, like the theft that they're doing and all. But other than that, like we are also like we want the approval from them. I mean, we
Yeah,
really
yeah,
need
you're
to
right. You're
stop
right.
that. I mean,
So it's
I don't. Why should we care if they like our culture or not? Like, who cares?
absolutely, absolutely. See, the problem is that over the past a few centuries, we have been portrayed as deeply inferior to the foreign occupiers, and that's why I think there is a certain amount of this inferiority complex among certain Indian people. Many, I would say, many Indian people, that people with white skin are superior to us. So that needs to slowly be replaced by a more confident approach. As India will grow economically and power in military power, the attitudes will change. Right now we have this attitude that we want to impress people from other countries, especially people with white skin, and so on. So it is just a sign of the times that we are living in. Hopefully, as the years go by, things will improve. I am quite optimistic. I am very hopeful. Right.
Well, that's good thing to know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you again. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, friends, ladies, gentlemen, this brings me to the end of today's session. My apologies to everybody else who is trying to get in and speak to me. We will do more of this. And so, thank you all. Very interesting session, very good questions. And I am, as always, very grateful for everybody who comes here, who asks questions, who watches. Thank you so much to all of you. And I will see you in the next Ask Abhijit session. Thank you so much.